Hey guys, welcome back to Discover SPRINGFORD. If you can't see me right now, it's because I'm standing in the middle of one of the largest cinematic media collections in the world. And guess what? It's right here in the heart of Springford. Today, I'm sitting down with David Eisenhauer of Cinema Sickness.
I'm Geoff Desiato, a local realtor, aspiring actor, and transplant to the Springford area. And I'm on a mission to find the best that Springford has to offer. I'll be interviewing local business owners, civil servants, and other prominent members of the community to find out what makes Springford a great place to live, work, eat, and explore. I invite you to join me on my journey as I discover Springford.
I'm very excited to sit down with David Eisenhauer of Cinema Sickness. We are in his video library. One of the most expansive collections I've ever seen, if not the most expansive. I felt like I was walking into a Blockbuster Video back in the day. Rest in peace. But David, thanks for coming on the show today. Really appreciate having you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So let's, what we usually do on the show is we go back at the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey, and then we'd like to mix in a little bit of local flair. Obviously, a Royersford resident.
Yep.
And so why don't you start us off with just your upbringing, and then we'll transition more into how you got into Cinema Sickness.
I've lived here my entire life. This was the house I was born and raised in. Unfortunately, when my father did pass away a few years ago, his name was also David Eisenhauer. Ike, many Royersfordians will probably know who he is. He was actually the chief of Humane Fire Company for a long time. Worked at Tom's Bar, so he was pretty loved in the community.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when he passed away, we did inherit the house, so I moved in here, and again, pretty much just been living here my entire life. So I've been in Royersford since it all began. Since I was born, riding my bikes around and playing in the woods, and
that's awesome.
I went to Springford, and
yeah,
it's weird now to see there's like 15 schools.
Yeah, right. We're like, wait, I thought I was just at Springford High School. Oh no, it's this one. No, it's this one. The 8. I'm pretty sure they're going to build an 8.5 grade center. So like halfway through the year, you switch to the next one.
I don't even know anymore. I'm like that was the middle school. That was the high school. That's how it was when I was. Yeah.
All right. So obviously, I would imagine from a young age you developed a liking of cinema.
Oh, I've always been into to movies. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, watching Batman and of course cartoons and TV and whatnot. So
right.
Yeah, I've always had a big love for movies.
So you probably get this question a lot, I would imagine, from fans and followers. But is it possible that you have a favorite film?
Usually my answer to that is I usually just say Young Frankenstein, because
okay.
I do love that movie, but I don't know if I have an absolute 100%
I can't
definite
imagine
favorite.
You'd be able to.
There's so many different genres
right.
and different movies. It's really hard to say. I mean, I can say like, okay, maybe like these 20 are like my favorite, but
Yeah, and it's for me, I noticed that there's like the answer you want to give, because it'll make you seem like I'm a true lover of quality cinema. But then there's the way I quantify it is the movie that if I'm flipping through the channels and it's on, I have to sit and watch, no matter where it's from, watch it to the end. And there are only a handful of movies that I think that. So that's kind of how I describe my favorite film. It changes, but I'm a big fan of Catch Me If You Can, which is the Leonardo DiCaprio,
movie,
Tom Hanks. I love that era. My living room is decorated in like Frank Sinatra, mid-century modern style. So I just love like anything that has that kind of period.
It's a great movie.
Yeah. So I also am a big fan of Apollo 13.
Oh yeah.
That was I was learning astronomy in 6th grade.
Just a big Tom Hanks fan.
Yeah. Not intentionally. Like if you ask me who my favorite actor is, I would not say Tom Hanks, but I love almost every movie he's ever done. So maybe I'm just not willing to admit. But in 6th grade, studying astronomy was the year that Apollo 13 came out, and I was learning about the Apollo missions and everything, and it was just like the seminal moment in my life. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. So anyway, back to you. I've been criticized for making the show too much about me. I'm working on it, folks. I swear. So how does something go from, I like movies, I'm going to start getting every movie I like and buying it and adding it to my catalog. How does it go from that to this?
I have always been a collector. Ever since I was a little kid, I used to collect rocks and certain toys. I'd want to have them all, and of course I couldn't just throw them in a box. I'd have to have them on a shelf somewhere displayed in my bedroom. Like I was always into collecting and displaying, and it's definitely something that's always been a part of me. Maybe, I don't know, I'm sure some psychiatrists out there would have a field day with that, but it's always been something. I always loved the idea of collecting. And before I collected movies, the last thing I collected before this, I was into Pez dispensers. I got super into that, and I had a huge collection of Pez. And unfortunately, what happened is right at the time I started collecting, Pez collecting kind of got big, like around like the late 90s, early 2000s.
It went mainstream.
Like everybody started doing it. So unfortunately, the Pez company, got wind of this and kind of started not focusing so much on putting out new dispensers and got really into, well, let's put out Pez pillows and Pez hats and Pez frisbees and Pez cards. It's like, what's all this crap? I didn't mind collecting that stuff at the time because it was like, a little bit of here and there. But dispensers are what I was really into, and they kind of stopped focusing on that. So I was like, all right, I kind of had this.
Yeah, that seems like bad marketing on their part.
Well, it did eventually change. They actually, I think, realized their mistake, and they got really into. Back then, it used to be you had to be popular for 10 years to actually get put on a dispenser. Okay. So like The Simpsons were around for I think it was 15 years or something at the time before they even got a Pez dispenser.
Wow.
Because that was the rule. Yeah. They weren't going to put that new cartoon wasn't going to get a Pez dispenser. Yeah. They've changed that. Yeah. Now it's something new comes out.
They strike while the iron.
The next week there's Pez. But anyway, so I got out of that. Yeah. And at that point I had a few $1,000 in my pocket because I had some old dispensers that were worth some money, and I had sold them all off. And DVDs had just kind of hit the mainstream. I mean, they had been out for a couple years, but it was finally to the point where the players and the actual movies themselves had dropped in price that everybody was kind of getting into it. And I was like, well, maybe I'll finally pick up, a DVD player for my bedroom and a couple of movies I'm really into.
What era was that? I don't remember.
That would have been 2001 is when I started collecting.
Okay.
So right around then I started picking up some movies that I liked, and it just completely, pretty much immediately went from one collection right into the next. I couldn't stop. I was like, oh, this movie's out, oh, and that TV show's out, and oh, that's that cartoon from when I was a kid, and wow. It got way out of hand really quickly, and then all these years later.
Yeah. Now, did you start with collecting, one type of I got all the seasons of my favorite series, or did it start with I want every movie in this trilogy or in this saga?
When I first started, when I first went out and picked up stuff, I was mainly focused on. I pretty much wanted every Quentin Tarantino, every Tim Burton, because I was obsessed with them back in the day. And then from there, I started picking up stuff that I was into when I was a kid, Willy Wonka, Stand By Me, Wizard of Oz. It's stuff like that I started grabbing. And that was pretty much how I started out, was just grabbing things that basically from my childhood or stuff that I grew up with, movies that I really, really were into. And then from there, I started being like, okay, well, I've never seen this movie, but it looks pretty interesting, and I'll check this one out. And
are you someone who judges things by their cover? I know you're not supposed to do that.
No, not really. If I pick something up and I'm like, it looks like it could be good, that's how I do my collection. Some people criticize me and they're like, oh, you'll just buy any movie, which is not the case. If that was the case, my collection would be
even bigger.
1,000 times. There's so many movies on DVD and Blu-ray and all other formats. I don't do that. I have to look at a movie and go, okay, this has actors I like. The synopsis sounds pretty good. This could be a movie I want to check out. And if I want to check it out and it's for a good price, I'll pick it up.
Do you also have a B cult movie collection?
Oh god,
amongst the ones that are recognized for being bad, and you collect those Mac and Me and movies like that.
A lot of my collection are really cheesy movies. I like a good cheesy movie, especially cheesy horror. I love it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's I grew up watching Mystery Science Theater 2000, so I often say my sense of humor was developed by watching that show, the obscure references, all that kind of stuff. Because they would make a comment, and then I'd be like, "What are they?" And then I would go, and it was just crazy. But yeah, they uncovered. Everybody knows what Man is the Hands of Fate is. Nobody knew when they did that movie. Nobody knew anything about it. So that's really interesting. So how does it go from? Let me ask you this: your method of obtaining the movies. I know you in watching your channel, which we'll talk about a little bit later. You go hunting. For whether it's yard sales or whatever. Mm-hmm. Is that your primary source? Is pre-owned, or do you actually go out? And
most
buy
of it's pre-owned. I very rarely I think today I might actually, after this interview, I might go out and pick up the new Avengers movie because I just really want to see it.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
I haven't watched it. No, I haven't seen it.
I liked it.
I don't really go to the theater very often.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no real reason for
Yeah,
me to go to
that's
the movie
true,
theater.
yeah.
I end up buying it. So
Yeah.
but I'm gonna actually go and get that because I really want to see it. But
Yeah.
that's very rare. Usually, I very rarely buy movies when they come out. I will usually pick stuff up secondhand. I'll go to flea markets, thrift stores, pawn shops, stuff like that, like yard sales, things like that is where I get a lot of my stuff. And otherwise, I just wait for stuff to drop like really low. Like my limit's usually like $5. Like, I won't pay more than $5 for a movie usually.
At what point did you decide to start to make it a money-making venture? Because obviously everybody has a collection, and they have a garage full of stuff that they mean to do something with someday, the rainy day stuff that they put aside and they never actually do. But the thing that I find so intriguing is when people actually go from, this is something I love simply because I love it, to how can I find a way to, turn it into a monetary venture?
I guess it was about, coming up 2 years now. I had worked for a company for 14 years that unfortunately got rid of my department. So I was laid off. And, excuse me, my stomach. I haven't eaten today. So I was laid off. And I, at that point, was trying to, kind of panicking. I had a young child and whatnot, and, bills to pay and stuff. So rushed out, found another job. And the job was okay. I mean, the job itself was all right. The company I worked for, wasn't a big fan of. So I was there for about 6 months, and one of the main reasons I took that job was because their hours were the same hours I was working at that job for 14 years, which worked out because, again, I have a kid. My wife works nights. I was working the day, so we didn't have to find some weird babysitter or daycare, figure out what we're going to do for my kid for a couple hours. So it was kind of perfect as far as hours were concerned. And then 6 months in, they said, "Oh, we want to change your hours. You got to come in later and work later." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, I can't do that."
Yeah.
And half the reason I took the job was because of the hours. I mean, these are the hours you told me I'd be working. I took the job, and now you want to change that? And they looked at me and said, "Tough. Like that's what you got to do." So literally that day, I told my supervisor, I'm like, "I guess I'm done." He's like, "It sucks, but I understand." He's like, "It's a shame to see you go."
Oftentimes it's their hands are tied as much.
It's
always somebody up above.
He was like, "There's nothing." He's like, "There's nothing I can do about it." He's like, "It's what these guys want." Yeah. So I left that day, and at that point, I called my wife and said, "I think I'm going to try doing Cinema Sickness full time."
Wow.
Because I'd been thinking about it. Because up till that point, for a couple months already, I'd been living off Cinema Sickness and my videos in the store.
Okay.
I had been living off that. All the money I was making from the job I was at for that 6 months, I was just kind of putting into the bank.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm already making a living off this. I'm already surviving off this. I'm like, if I can keep that going and maybe grow that, it'll work, and I can keep doing it. And now it's been like, I guess, a year and a half later. Here I am.
That's great.
So, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what Cinema Sickness is, how it started, and then how it's grown to where it is now, where you're actually able to live off of it.
It really just started with me doing videos. In fact, I didn't even really realize I was going to be doing videos. I posted a video showing off my collection, which was a lot smaller back in the day, over at in the condo I used to live in. That's why I did a video in the first place, because I wanted to show my friends. I was like, my friends were like, "I want to see your collection," because even though it was smaller, it was still decent size, and they wanted to see it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to film a little kind of tour video showing off my collection, just send it to my friends, and then people started watching that video, and I started thinking maybe I should do like pickup videos. I'll show people, things I bought. Here's what I bought today. Maybe here's what I watched today. Give a little review, and I started doing that, and then. Again, people started watching more and more, and at that point I was like, all right, let's try to expand this out more. I'll do like hunting videos where I go out and I hunt down movies, and from there, 8 years later, it is kind of snowballed and just kept going. And it also got to the point where I started realizing that I'm coming across good stuff while I'm out at a pawn shop or a thrift store or something, or a flea market, where maybe it's a movie that's out of print that goes for like a decent amount of money or something that I don't need it. I already have it, so I'm going to let it go, but why not pick that up and try to resell it, for whatever. And I've been doing that. And then for movies, I got into maybe selling also old retro toys and stuff as well. And that's kind of snowballed also.
Yeah, I mean, collectibles are it's such a huge market, I would imagine, or a niche market, but very loyal market for collectibles and things like that. So at what point did you start doing the daily videos? Was that from almost the beginning? That was
almost from the beginning, yeah.
So you've been doing nearly 8 years of daily videos.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
I would say nowadays, documenting that much content is not as foreign as it probably was when you started.
Yeah, when I started, there wasn't a ton of people doing it. Now
Yeah.
it's to say like that I was a YouTuber or I made YouTube videos like a couple years ago. It didn't feel weird. Now when people ask what I do, I'm like, I try to think of a way to not say that I do YouTube because I'm like, everybody does YouTube.
Yeah, right.
nowadays.
It's like, Johnny 12-year-old is like, I have a YouTube channel. And you're like, oh, that's cute, kid. Go back to school. But no, I mean, I can imagine. It does. I'm in a position now where I say like, do I say I'm an actor? Do I say I'm a real estate agent? Do I say I have a show? Like, I don't know what to call myself. So I imagine that when someone asks you like, what do you do for a living? How do you answer that question?
I usually say I start off by saying I run my own business, and some
Right.
people just leave it like, oh, okay, cool. And then some people are like, oh, well, what do you do? And then I have to kind of get into it more. Yeah.
You're like, well, do you like movies? No, like, do you really, 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 really like movies? So I would imagine when you run into this type of, and I'm going to link the tour video that you did of the new space, because I watched the original one.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched, I haven't been stalking you or anything, but no, I found it fascinating because I know you do the Goodwill Hunting on Wednesdays.
Oh, Wednesdays,
correct?
yeah.
So
Goodwill Wednesdays, yeah.
Yeah, so, which I think is just the use of the movie title is just it's brilliant. Very well done by you. But do you actually have like a hard copy or an Excel of everything that you have down here?
It's on my website, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have my entire collection listed at my website, yeah. So if there, I'd say 90% of the time, I'm usually pretty good at knowing what I have. Like, I don't know.
Just like off the top of your head, you mean?
It's my collection, it's my passion, it's my love. So I usually know, okay, I own this movie. But every now and then I'm like, okay, I come across a new Scooby-Doo movie, which there's like 50,000 animated Scooby-Doo movies. I'm like, do I have this one? I can pop on my website quick and check it out and see if I have it or not.
Yeah, is this the one where the kids meddle? Or is it the guy from the beginning who they trusted who turns out to be the bad guy? I don't know. Oh, wait, that's every single one.
Yeah. Like, do I have this WWF one or the one where they meet the like, I don't know, Flintstones or the ones where they meet the Jetsons? Like, there's so many
crossover ones.
Yeah, there's like 3 WWF ones. Like, why is Scooby-Doo meeting the WWF characters?
And
like,
they're animated versions of the WWF characters?
Oh, yeah,
That's
it's weird and it's bad.
Well, then Hulk Hogan and Friends, wasn't that a show for a while?
Oh,
or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like that?
yeah.
Mr. T was in it, and Roddy Piper. I was a big WWF fan.
Well, I
got out of it, yeah.
That's why I said WWF, because,
it's a very specific era.
Yeah, that's when I watched it. Like, I love, like, the late 80s, era of wrestling.
I got out of it. Like, once he hit, like, I'm trying to think of, like, once he got to, like, the narcissist Lex Luger, and it just became everybody from the WCW joining, that's kind of when I got out of it. And I also outgrew it. No offense to anybody that's still an avid wrestling fan. It wasn't interesting to me anymore. I liked it better when it was all the kayfabe. Like, everybody had a ridiculous costume, and it was more fun. When I was 10 years old, I really believed that Randy Savage hated Hulk Hogan, and Ric Flair, like, or no, the Undertaker really tried to kill the Ultimate Warrior. Like, I remember vividly watching that on a Saturday morning of him burying him.
He was the best, man. Back in the day. And then did he become like a biker or something?
Yeah, American Badass. That's what it was. It was like, he's the Undertaker though, and then he finally returned to his roots.
Because I remember like when wrestling, like that early 90s when like it took off, really big, and everybody was super into it, and everybody was doing their backyard wrestling. Like, I was out of wrestling at that point.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I remember like seeing like action figures and stuff for like I'm like, how's that the Undertaker?
Yeah, what does that have to do with that? He's wearing acid wash jeans. Yeah, like, he's riding a Harley.
Yeah, like what? How's this the Undertaker? The Undertaker I knew had like the brimmed hat and the long trench coat and stuff.
He's
and the Paul Bear. Yeah, he was awesome.
Definitely, what do they call it? He had a great look, and just like whatever his story was.
I love his theme song. We started out with just the boom.
Yeah, right.
It was like, oh, that's so cool.
And the Paul Bear, that's a classic guy.
I love the way he talked.
He had like 14 chins. Anyway, see, I tend to steer the conversation in ways that people are probably watching this like, I want to know more about the cinema. No, it's my fault. I'm not so skilled at the interviewing yet. I'll get there in season 6 if we still exist by then. So tell me a little bit about the what a daily, obviously you're documenting it. What does the daily operations kind of look like in terms of turning the content around?
It can change. I mean, certain days, like there are days where I will get up in the morning, like let's say I meet up with some friends, and we'll go out and we'll hunt like all day long.
Wow.
We'll drive out to like Hershey or something like that, or we'll drive out to Jersey and end up doing some flea markets and hitting some thrift stores, and then ending up like down at the Jersey Shore doing some hunting down there, and I can be out all day long doing stuff. And other days I will just do something simple like an unboxing video, because people like fans and viewers, they send me stuff all the time. I don't know if you saw those packages right by the door there.
No, I didn't see.
Oh yeah, that was all just stuff I haven't even got to yet that people have sent
That's
me.
crazy.
I got to unbox. So some days I'll make it simple, which allows me to get some yard work done or something like that. But it can change. But it's crazy. I have a lot of people who will say to me like, oh, it must be nice to be retired, not have a real job or whatever. And I am working so much more harder now than I have ever in my entire life. I'm like, no, it must be nice to get up in the morning, work those 8 hours, and know you're done, and have a steady paycheck, and have insurance and whatnot. Like that must be amazing.
Yeah.
Like me, I'm like, at the end of the month, I don't know how much money is going to be coming in. Maybe, it's never the exact amount. And on top of that, I'm shooting, I'm editing, I'm filming, I'm doing voiceovers, and I'm running my store on top of that. So I'm constantly taking people's orders, I'm sending out invoices, I'm packing stuff up, I'm shipping stuff. Like I don't get to like sit down anymore. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, like my movie watching has like, I won't watch as many movies as I like.
No. All your loyal fans are gonna be like, how dare you?
Oh no, they know. I've said, but I used to watch one movie every day. That was always my goal. I had to watch at least one title every single day. And
would it have to be a new title every time? Or
no, it doesn't have to be. No, but just as long as I always watch something every day, I was happy.
Yeah.
And now it's like I'm lucky if I get to do that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just so busy.
I've had the same. I do Netflix, obviously Netflix streaming, but we still get the DVDs as well.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of titles that you can only get through DVDs.
Yeah.
So, but we've been so busy. I've had the same the movie The Majestic. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah.
I saw it a long time ago. Loved it. My wife will love it. I know she will. We just never get a chance to see it. We've had it since April, sitting in our stuff. So thankfully, there are no late fees with the DVD sending. But I'm like, I've had this for 4 months, and I'm supposed to be getting. So I changed my Netflix to just the 2 DVDs a month, because we're never gonna watch unlimited amounts. So I'm like, all right, I'll save a couple bucks. But what about how do you? Obviously, this is your collection. Mm-hmm. So then you also have. Is there another off-site location where you have all of your inventory for resale?
That's all up in the office.
Oh, okay.
Which is starting to
overrun.
It's starting to overflow a little bit. Yeah, it is getting kind of crazy. I try to turn over stuff quickly. I don't try to pick up stuff I know like maybe this will sell, maybe it won't. I try to get stuff I'm pretty sure will turn around.
Now, I would imagine a lot of that has to do with you have to do like a lot of research about what is the hot thing, or is it something that just comes.
Yeah, just
osmosis from being immersed in it.
I kind of just know.
Yeah. Now, how do you is the main part of your store just your website, or do you also go through like Amazon and?
No, it's just it's Instagram actually.
Instagram.
My store's on Instagram. Yeah.
Wow. So it's DMs and stuff. That's how people get in touch with you. And
they just follow me on there, and they see new stuff I posted. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, I looked into doing eBay and stuff like that, which would give me a bigger audience and whatnot, which would be great. But they take so much of your money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they take a huge cut, and I had to charge, because that's the thing with movies is like, yeah, if I find some rare out of print title that goes for a ton of money, like that's great, but that's far and few in between.
Yeah.
Usually I find a movie and I'm like, all right, I can mark this up like $3, maybe $5. So there's very little markup. So if I was to put that stuff on eBay, I'd have to charge crazy amounts to make money. Yeah.
Now, just to kind of talk a little bit more about like your personal experience through this, are there any highlights of the process? I mean, obviously, like you said, I find that this is often the way YouTubers get started is they just randomly put a video up there, and then all of a sudden eyeballs get on it, and then you're like, wait, maybe this is something. Are there any key highlights or key like points in this 9-year journey? Well, I guess longer than that, right?
Since I've been doing it's been about 8 years since I've been doing
so that you kind of look at as like when you hit that milestone, it was like very memorable. Like the first time you had 1,000 views on a video, or the first time you had 1,000 subscribers, or
I'm not really sure.
Maybe you just kept your head down the whole time, and then you all of a sudden you look your head up one day, and you're like, oh my goodness, like how am I this immersed in this?
I mean, it was pretty cool, I guess. I'd say like one of the first great things is when I was out somewhere. And somebody came up to me and was like, "Are you Cinema Sickness? I watch your videos." Like,
oh, that's awesome.
Like when that, like the first time that ever happened. I mean, now it happens like every now and then, but like the first time that ever happened, I was like, Like somebody's recognizing me? That's so weird.
Well, I would imagine you have a lot of followers that are not local. The
Yeah.
majority is probably all over.
Oh, they're all over the place. Yeah, I get people
Yeah.
all over the world, actually.
Yeah, what are some places that you can think of of people who follow you that are obscure? Can you think of any off the top of your head?
Like where they live?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Like how far the reach that it's gone, I should say.
I should remember this because just last night, I mean, I do a lot. I started doing live streams on Mondays.
Oh, okay.
So I do now a Monday live stream, and a lot of people say like, "Hey, I'm watching from this country." I mean, people are watching from Australia, UK, Germany. Gosh, and there were some really weird ones too. Like countries, I was like, "Wow!" Like, I can't believe like somebody watches me from like this random country.
Turkmenistan.
Yeah, it was some weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't even.
You're like, do you even have the internet there? No, I'm just kidding.
But people were watching me from like all over the place. And, like, that is
cool,
so
man.
crazy. Yeah.
It's so cool to know that, and that's one of the cool things about the internet, I think, is it opened up our minds to the world beyond the four walls or our neighborhood. And to know that there are people that love things as much as you do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I think, we live an isolated life and we think like no one is like me, really. Like I'm unique in a bad way. Or like we think we're weird because we like something and nobody else in our family does or whatever. And then you find this community outside that is, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to start the show is because obviously it's locally based, local interest. Nobody from Moose Jaw, Canada is necessarily going to care about Royersford or Spring City unless they have a family member or were born there. But
if this goes well, you can expand.
I could expand. It could be Discover
Pennsylvania, and then from Pennsylvania, discover like the tri-state, and then discover United States.
I have had some people start to say things like, "Oh, you should come and do like Perkiomen Valley because that's like the next one over." And I'm like, "Okay, I there's plenty that I have not exhausted just in the Springford area. Originally, it was just going to be Discover Royersford, and then I was like, well, I might run out of things. So I expanded it to Springford because I think that's like kind of the whole area. But now I find out that there's so much in Royersford, like this movie collection, which do you know how many titles you own?
No, I stopped collecting years ago, or stopped counting years ago, yeah.
So do you know, like, in terms of where it ranks or anything like that, like in personal movie collections? Do you keep
I mean,
tab on that?
I know I definitely have one of the largest in the world. I mean, I've seen people post like, I'm trying to think, I don't want to say it. On Insta or Facebook, I'll see like, the largest movie collection. It's like some viral video that's going around. I'm like, I've got more than that guy does. Like,
I think we got to get Guinness Book over here and see what's.
I wonder. I don't know.
It's pretty awesome. I will say. I think it's really cool. So, why don't we take a moment to tell people about how they can find what you're doing? Okay. Obviously, you have the Patreon for supporting you, subscribers on YouTube, Instagram. Let people know how they can find you. I will have all the links below the video, but
easiest thing is just to go to cinemasickness.com because there's links to everything there. So if you want to find YouTube, you want to find Facebook, you want to find Twitter, the store, all that stuff. I mean, there's just little clicks.
Nice little thumbnels.
It'll send you everywhere you want to go.
That's great.
But I'm also Cinema Sickness on everything. So anywhere I'm not, it's not one of those weird things where on Instagram I'm Cinema Sickness 235. It's just Cinema Sickness everywhere you go.
So we're Discover Springford except on Twitter because it's too long. So we're Discover SF Show on Twitter. So and also I'm gonna link up. At least provide a link in the comments, however, but to the tour, because I think that'll be really cool for people to watch this and be like, what the heck are you talking about? I only see a handful of videos behind you. Wait until you see the tour. And I encourage you guys to subscribe to David and Cinema Sickness. Very entertaining and a local guy. We definitely want to support locals. So, David, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it. Well, that just about does it for this episode of Discover Springford. If you'd like to hear our full unedited conversation, I encourage you to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and any other podcast app. And I want to thank David for allowing me to peruse this massive media library. It's all right here in the Springford area. And if you're ever in the market for a DVHS, that's right, an HD VHS of Fight Club, maybe you should talk to David about it. And if you'd like to get your very own tour of the video library, David actually put a video together, which we're going to link below this video, and you can watch as you walk through all the aisles and see all of the films that he has in his collection. If you'd like to support Discover Springford, I encourage you to check out our website. There are 3 ways for you to do that. You can make a one-time contribution on PayPal. You can also become a monthly supporter through Patreon. Or you can check out our merchandise. Until next time, I encourage you to get out there and discover what makes the Springford area a great place to live, work, eat, and explore.